Okay, so this is Nathan Zimmerman. This is my presentation on the Wounded Knee occupation. So, for background, the word Wounded Knee is synonymous with the massacre that occurred on December 29th, 1890, on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And this is when the U.S. Army went to basically disarm the Lakota people who were living in a camp on the reservation at the time. And it devolved into a firefight, and many Lakota people were killed, even if they weren't carrying weapons. So that was pretty uncool. So then there's the occupation of Wounded Knee, which happened on February 27th, 1973. And this occurred on the same location as the massacre. And it was basically a group of about 200 Lakota and AIM supporters, and they chose the site for its symbolic value, as it was the original site of the massacre. And they marched into the town with weapons, and they took control of it. It was not that difficult for them to do because of the way that reservations are. There just isn't a lot of law enforcement, and they were able to take it pretty successfully. And the reason why this actually happened was because the tribal president at the time, the people deemed him as unjust, and he had a bunch of shady practices going on. So they had tried to impeach him, but a few days after the impeachment trial was dismissed, they marched into Wounded Knee and took control of it. So this is a picture here of some of the people that were taking control of Wounded Knee at the time. It lasted for 71 days. That's how long they had control of it. So the tribal chairman that I had just mentioned is Richard Wilson. And yeah, as I said, they had made attempts to impeach him. Basically, the accusations were he was using tribal money for his own benefit and wasn't budgeting properly. So they felt that he was not doing good for the tribe. So they tried to impeach him. It did not work, and then they took control of it. Some other important figures during the occupation were Frank Fools Crow, and he was the elder in the tribe. So that basically, from what I understand in Native culture, the older people in the tribe have a lot more power than younger people. So he went to New York with a group of other natives and AIM supporters, and they tried to get recognized by the UN. They were not granted recognition. They were actually under a lot of media coverage. Even though the media had covered that a lot, they still did not gain recognition as a sovereign nation. So, but that is significant because of the amount of light that was shined on them by the media. And this guy, Harlington Wood Jr., was the first U.S. government employee to enter Wounded Knee without a military transport after the siege. He helped smooth out a lot of the conflict between the U.S. government and the Lakota Sioux tribe. So basically, there's a lot of confusion as to why the United States didn't interfere so much with the siege. And they were pretty hands off with the way that they handled it at the time. And there's a lot of speculation that one of the reasons was because the Watergate scandal was happening around the same time. But they basically created a 15-mile border around the area and set up roadblocks. Richard Wilson also set up roadblocks trying to keep anyone from coming in or out of the area to try and like strangle out the American Indian movement supporters. But they still were able to smuggle in supplies, so they weren't like starving or anything. Some people actually even called in airdrops, which I found was pretty ridiculous. And the total amount of military spending during the siege was just over $500,000. This is one of the checkpoints, and I like this picture because it kind of showcases how kind of everything was just like put together. Like it wasn't very coordinated or official. It was kind of just like put together on a whim. So that was pretty interesting, I thought. Some of the national reception, the attitude of the public at the time was sympathy. Most Americans felt sympathetic to the natives and the American Indian movement. Other minority groups, such as the African American population, supported the American Indian movement, and even some famous people like Johnny Cash supported the American Indian movement. There's a interesting connection between The Godfather and this event because Marlon Brando won the Academy Awards for his performance in The Godfather, and because of his support of the natives, he requested that a Native American woman named Sacheen Littlefeather would speak at the awards for him. But interesting thing is that she actually denied the award for him. And this is a picture of her at the award ceremony, and she has this traditional outfit on. And she brought widespread attention to the problems between the United States and Native tribes. It was actually found pretty recently that she was not Native American at all, and she was actually Hispanic. She's just pretending to be Native American. So there's some controversy behind that. And the issue of people claiming indigenous ancestry not actually being indigenous. So some of the legacy of Wounded Knee occupation was a lot higher rate of crime in the Pine Ridge Reservation. The quote unquote murder capital of the country at the time was Detroit, but the Pine Ridge Reservation actually had a higher rate of murder than Detroit after the Wounded Knee occupation, so that's pretty brutal. The FBI was criticized because many people claimed that the conflict would have been over much sooner if there had been more U.S. government intervention. As I stated before, this could have been because of the Watergate scandal. Most importantly, America was made aware of a lot of the many problems between the U.S. government and Native tribes. So that made the general public more aware of a lot of the things that were happening at the time. And that's the wound in the occupation. Thanks for listening.